Hi, my name is Heaven Miller, and I'm with Ooh Radio today, and I'm going to be interviewing Miss Professor Smith, who is part of the Robeson and Art Performing Arts program. So I just had a few questions regarding to art and how you resemble in that. So, how do you define art?
Uh, so as I mentioned once before, that's probably the toughest question I've ever been asked. But I see art as not really a thing so much as a form of expression. And those forms of expression can present themselves as things eventually, but it starts as the need to express. And I believe that when that person has effectively communicated whatever it is that they're trying to communicate, then the result is a successful work of art.
What are some elements of art you use in your daily life?
So, these are really simple terms, but I think of the visual elements a lot. When I create, I think about it all the time, actually, and I teach solely based on the visual elements, which are line and value, which is in art, value means the relationship between light to dark. So, shading, color, which is infinite, and color is based in nature, just like every other theory in art. Definitely shape and form, the shapes and forms of things, whether they're organic or not. And then, of course, use of space. How are you occupying space? Because that can also determine the impact overall. You know, a drawing can be a very nice drawing, but if it's small on a large space, it doesn't have strong impact. And so I'm always thinking about the visual elements, which lead to the principles of design, you know, that leads to the actual composition, the composing and the creation of the work. So when I'm thinking of my work, I'm thinking of the mood based on the use of color, based on the lines. Are they upright? Are they horizontal? Are they diagonal? Because even that can evoke mood. Um, you know, things like shading can evoke mood, where the light is coming from and how it hits a person's face just right, you know, can evoke a certain mood. So those are things I often think about all the time when I'm creating work.
What kind of art do you mostly gravitate towards? For example, like acrylic painting, watercolor, printmaking, even ceramics.
I love all those styles, but what I gravitate towards is mainly things dealing with impactful color. I'm a heavy color theorist, as you can see. Um, but yeah, I love color theory. So anything where the color is drawing me in, or when the color mimics things like light and shadow, you know. Um, Definitely the human figure, the way it's interpreted. That's, you know, I'm a portrait artist. So that is something I'm definitely drawn to, is how other people interpret the figure and not just me. And then I love abstract because that's something I don't really dive into much. So I love seeing how other people interpret their abstract creations. So that's what I gravitate towards. I love sculpture as well. I love to go and draw sculptures when I'm at museums.
Mhm.
So that also excites me, you know.
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Doing well. So, what made you become passionate in art?
Ever since I was younger, I always liked to draw or just do different things, like color, or I just always been fascinated with different kinds of art. And then more recently, I started making flyers and things like that for my church. So I just realized I really enjoyed doing it. So I decided to actually pursue it professionally.
Um, So, when it comes to art, what do you find the most challenging?
Um, Staying true to techniques, just making sure you're actually doing things right because there's actual process in art.
Seen in art or something that made you feel like, okay, this is my thing, this is my um, craft, and do you see yourself like growing more in this field?
I find it interesting how like art is so many different things in one. It's not just drawing or painting. It's there's digital aspects to it. So there's always going to be a need for art, whether there's textbooks. Textbooks have drawings and things like that. And just knowing that I will always kind of have something to do.
Why are black and white colors are so important?
So black and white is so important because they actually are the total lack of color. And so when you think of the primary colors, red, yellow, and blue, those can be used to create pretty much any combination of color. But then when you add various increments of white and black, now color is infinite. Because if I put colors in front of 100 people and say, make your own version of purple, everybody's going to have a different version of purple. Everybody, no doubt. It's all going to look different. And that goes with any color. Even if I say make gray, you'd be surprised how many variations even of gray you can get. But gray, black, and white are not as infinite as when you mix them with color. So they're just as important as the number 0, right? The number 0 by itself seems very insignificant until you start putting it behind actual numbers 1 through 9, right? And then, depending on how you multiply those zeros, they have even more significance. So I liken black and white to that same concept.
Very interesting, and it makes sense. I like how you trace back your art, the colors of art into math. And I really do believe math.
There's a lot of math. There's a lot of math in art. I'm always busting people's bubbles too, because many people are like, oh, I majored in art because I don't like math or science. And I'm like, art is deeply rooted in both math and science, deeply rooted. When, you can't even ignore it, there's no way around it, basically.
So, what you guys working on now?
We're using images that we took, pictures that we took ourselves, and we processed it on Adobe Photoshop, and then we transferred it onto a pencil board, and now we're painting it based off of the values, using colors to illustrate those different values that's in the picture.
That's dope. Like, this is very cool and very interesting. I like it. What made you decide to pick these colors though?
I honestly didn't pick them. I had my sister choose for me because I'm very indecisive.
Okay.
But I also these colors work for me because I feel like it's kind of neutral as far as gender neutral.
But now, least, is your art your purpose?
It has a lot to do with my purpose, but it is not my sole purpose. It helps me to act upon my purpose. I believe I have many purposes that compile into just my life and my lifestyle, because I'm an artist, but I also am an activist and I'm an advocate. And so you'll see my activism and my advocacy through my art. So my purpose is to use art as my voice to say things that maybe I wouldn't say so strongly without art as my voice. So it's my loudest voice. And so, it has a lot to do with my purpose. It's a tool within my purpose. But if I just said that art by itself is my purpose. I think most seasoned artists would agree that it's a part of it. It is a major part of it. And then sometimes I'm not trying to be an advocate. Sometimes I do art for art's sake. Sometimes I just want to do a lovely sunset, a lovely landscape. And for me, that's still Black art because I'm a Black person making it, you know. And so that's the overall purpose for me.